Welcome. This is the Jenkins governance meeting. Today is the 16th of June, 2025. Thanks to everyone for being here. And let's start with upcoming calendar. So weekly release tomorrow, 2.515. Oh, and I didn't note that, but proposed LTS baseline 2.514, releasing July 23. And I'll propose myself as release lead for it because there are some things that are quite important to me in it. Next LTS release will be next week, June 25th. Thanks to Philippe Glans for acting as release lead. This is Philippe's first time acting as release lead. Thanks to Chris Stern for mentoring. And you can read the notes. CDCon is coming up next week here near me in Denver, Colorado, and then Open Source Summit Europe will be in Amsterdam in August. Any other items that we need to discuss on the calendar? Okay, next topics then were news. So voting is now complete as far as I know for the Jenkins Awards. Results will be announced at CDCon. On action items, the quarterly CDF status report is done. I submitted that. And we've got agreement from board members that we'll do a rotation. I've listed the rotation for who'll publish the next. So Alex will handle the September update, Basil the December, and then Valentin, you'll be March of next year, Alex Brandes the following year, and then it rotates back to me in September of next year. The other was reimbursements for SPI funded attendees. I'm assuming we're done there. Jan Faracek was the only one who had not submitted, and given we are now 6 months since the event happened, I think it's safe to say he's not going to submit. That's okay. I have the open action item to confirm with SPI that our proposed donation to OSU OSL is acceptable. The idea was let's donate these remaining funds to help their mission so that they can continue to mirror our software and other software. Basil, anything you want to report on the attribution entries for the downloads page?
No, nothing new.
Okay, and I have nothing new to report on sponsorship tiers or on the thing that I took from last meeting, which was to notify plugin maintainers that opt-out is open for community plugin maintainer initiative if people don't want to be part of it. And for example, I have a couple of repositories where I'm intentionally not participating, so I'll flag those and it'll be an example. On the community activity front, we just had a pull request merged to the documentation site to change Firefox extended support release from tier 1 support to tier 2. So as a reminder, what that means, tier 1 is we aim to proactively support those browsers and keep UX experience the same across all of them. Tier 2 is best effort. And the reason for that was inspired by this pull request from Jan Faracek that uses a new way of doing colors. It's a much better way of doing colors, but the old Firefox ESR release, which is now 2 years old, doesn't have this support in it. So the proposal was, let's admit we're going to support modern browsers instead of including ESR in this level 1 column. Any comments or concerns there from the board? And Bruno, with you here from the Platform SIG, I think it's a reasonable thing for Platform SIG to consider this kind of choice, but I support it. I think it's the right choice.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, great.
We're not even testing ESR and ACH because it's so old that it doesn't work with new Selenium versions.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of ATH. That is another good reason for it to go because we do test Firefox latest versions and we've got some prototypes working of testing Chrome, right? I mean, Chrome's not fully tested, but you've done some experiments with it.
Yeah, currently about 65% of the test suite passes in Chrome.
Great.
which is not great because that's by far the most commonly used browser in Jenkins.
Which says we've got work to do on ATH, but at least the fact that Firefox current is working for me is a good story. All right, good. Then let's continue with that. So the other piece on the community was on the community plugin maintainers proposal. And here was just a reminder that coming in September of 2025 will be the Java 25 release. And we'd like to do by, say, end of October that Jenkins Core and Jenkins plugins would support it as well, at least in weekly. And the idea we've proposed is we're going to set up a community plugin maintenance project that will do Java 25 support. And thus it will test drive the concepts in the proposal and work out to see how we can do it. Now, we've also got the plugin modernizer that can help with that. That's great. And Oleg had voiced last time a concern that we need to forewarn the maintainers in another way. And so I've got the action item that I'll find the email addresses and send specific email to the maintainers. Does that work for everybody else? Any objections there? Reasons why we shouldn't do it that way? Okay, great. Then I'll assume that lazy consensus, that's great. Thank you. Next topic then was governance topics. And here I've got an extra text that I should have removed. Sorry. CDF and the Linux Foundation have reminded me, that they need to own the Jenkins.io domain and its subdomains as a DNS ownership. And it's been years since we joined CDF. That's a standard part of their process, but apparently we didn't do it. So we need to ask Tyler Croy, who currently owns the Jenkins.io domain, to transfer ownership of that domain to a designated contact at Linux Foundation. I'll take that action item if that's okay with the board members. It's a procedural detail we need to handle. Tyler has been very prompt at renewing it every time it comes up for renewal. He happily pays the however much it is fee for that to retain that domain name. And now we've just got to be sure that it gets transferred to the correct owners at Linux Foundation. Any questions there?
Speaking of old business, did we ever get to the bottom of the statistics collection for plugin statistics?
We did. It's actually updated now. So good
Oh, great.
question. So now it's the project itself is not done, but plugin statistics are again being reported. And I think we actually got fresh reports, may have been last week, or if not, it'll be early this week, but we got them in May.
Cool.
But the process to get the whole process fixed, so it doesn't depend on Andrew Bayer and Kosuke Kawaguchi as two exact individuals who have to do the work, is still in process. So the improvements are pending to move the tasks to Jenkins Infra. And the Jenkins Infra team is working on them. Good question. So you can see those statistics on the plugins.jenkins.io site pages. You can see those statistics on stats.jenkins.io. And they do show, I'm really glad for this, they show a continuing adoption of new Java versions and a continuing decrease in the use of old Java versions. So I'm happy. We've also got or anything else on plugin statistics, Basil?
No, I was just curious if we ever got any updates. I know that that's been pending for a long time.
It has. We spent 6 months without those metrics, and so very, very happy to have them back.
In the last 12 months, Pipeline Graph View has nearly doubled in usage, which is,
Right.
I mean, we don't see that very often in Jenkins these days, so that's pretty cool.
It is, and that data is a great source of confidence for me and hope that, hey, look, we're getting people to use current things and they're adopting them and putting them to work. Yeah, very much agreed. Next next topic is the JFrog Artifact Storage Reduction Project. And so we had two facets to this thing. First is storage usage. JFrog sponsorship will allow up to 5 TB, and we had reached over 11. Darren Pope has reduced our storage to use to less than 2 TB, and it's stayed that way for weeks, right? So we're in good condition there. However, they've also got a bandwidth limit, and the bandwidth, we are still exceeding their bandwidth limit. However, Basel has agreed to analyze access logs if we can get those access logs. And so last week, Darren, with help from JFrog, started the collection of access logs each day. So we should have by now about a week's worth, and we'll then deliver those to Basel, and Basel lets you do the analysis, and we'll hope to find several places where we could reduce bandwidth use in hopes of getting below their 10 terabytes per month or 10 terabytes per month bandwidth limit. Basil, anything additional you want to share there?
No, just that I suspect that GitHub Actions is consuming a lot of the bandwidth. That would be my prediction about what's happening. A lot of things have been converted to CD in the last year, and I don't believe that's going through any proxy right now.
Got it.
So it would be fetching basically every CD release. We'll be doing a from scratch build. There's a little bit of caching through GitHub Actions in the in the security scan and in the release actions. They are doing caching, but that cache gets invalidated every time the POM changes, which would be the case whenever we bump the bomb or the plugin POM or do a release that invalidates the Maven cache for GitHub Actions.
Mm.
So we'd have to fetch all releases from scratch every time that happens, which is every CD release. Anyway, that's just my prediction.
Good.
Because
Thank you.
we've enabled security scan in a lot of places too, and that's another GitHub Actions. The important thing to note here is that the bandwidth is not coming from public, but from releases, right?
Correct. That's
Yeah.
right.
And internally on our own CI server, that should be a no-op because of the use of the cache, the artifact caching proxy.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
can't see what else it would be besides that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Does anyone have any other guesses? But what could be causing us to consume that much bandwidth from releases? It's either
Yes.
that or abuse from some external source.
Yeah, and my fear is it's abuse from an external source, but that's again not substantiated by any data. It just our experience last time was we found an abuser that was literally repeatedly downloading the same binaries over and over again as fast as their bandwidth would allow, and they just some sort of tight loop. It'll be good to see, and that's thank you for being willing to do the analysis. That's great.
Okay.
All right. In terms of cloud expenses, the board should be aware that Microsoft has extended the donation to August 31st. So the money that's in the account continue, but they won't give us any additional funds. So we've got 13K available right now. At current spend rates, that will be consumed before the end of June. And so before we have exhausted those funds, we will switch ci.jenkins.io to use the AWS sponsorship. So during the month of June, ci.jenkins.io will move back to AWS. And AWS has given us an additional 60K donation. That will get us until mid 2026. So very, very happy with that. We're still discussing with AWS how do we want to announce it, how do we want to publicize it, etc. But special thanks to AWS for their generosity in donating to the Jenkins project. Other donors, the CDF sponsorship continues. We're under budget for 2025, intentionally keeping some funds in reserve in case we need them at the end of the year. And DigitalOcean, we're just fine. We will probably increase our use of DigitalOcean, because it's at our current consumption weight, we will be well under using the total donation uh, by the time it expires in January. So any questions, comments, or concerns there?
I
Okay,
think we're gonna be talking to some of these people next week
correct.
at Open Source Summit. I think we lost our contact from JFrog, which is maybe concerning.
Well,
Because
actually, we didn't lose the contact. We've still got our contact. So Jonathan Arbel is our contact, and I'm speaking with another one, Melissa McKay, but she's no longer with JFrog.
that's what I was saying. So
Right.
okay, so we still have one point person then.
We do.
Okay.
And Jonathan has been answering questions and being a good help. But
Okay.
you're right that the other contact is no longer with JFrog. She's left JFrog, and so we want to be sure we nurture the relationship with JFrog through the current contacts.
Cool.
Good question. Thanks. Anything else on cloud expenses and sponsorships? Okay, last topic was SPI, and this is just to remind that the board had approved the donation to OSU OSL. I'll work with SPI to see if it's allowed. If it's not allowed, then we'll ask them to instead let us use the money for next year's contributor summit. They had initially said they wanted us to spend the money before the end of calendar 2025. But for me, the difference between calendar 2025 and early February 2026 is not much. So that was the idea. We've approved that OSU OSL is a good choice to receive the funds, but the SPI's got to decide if that's allowed in their bylaws and their donation rules. Any questions there? All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, and where did my controls go?